Hi, welcome to our leadership series brought to you by the HCI Group, a Tech Mahindra company. My name is Ed Marx. I serve as the Chief Digital Officer for Tech Mahindra Health and Life Sciences. And today we're going to talk about the psychology of leadership. You know, it's really important that we as leaders feed ourselves and stay relevant and keep up to date with sort of the latest that's out there that is both theory, but also practical. And so I'm delighted to have Will Conaway as our guest today. So this is the first time that it's a peer that we're having from my own organization having as a guest because Will has an amazing background. You can see some of that on his slide, and I'll ask him to introduce himself here in just a second. So this is part of our ongoing leadership series. And again, it's really meant to, hey, let's take 30 minutes and feed ourselves. Now, remember, this is live. We do live for two reasons. The first is to make this as interactive as possible. So you can ask questions online. I think everyone knows how to do that by this time. And we'll take those all the way through the next 30 minutes, and we'll respond to as many as we can get to. And the second reason we do it live is just more fun. So you never know what's going to happen, whether it's a FedEx delivery or something else that happens. But it makes it fun for us to also just be live with an audience. So with that, I will ask Will to introduce himself, and then we'll jump right into it. Will, welcome.
I'm thinking about that. Now you had me worried when you said live and what could happen here working from home. So I appreciate that. First, Ed, I'd like to say congratulations on the book. Great start, bestseller. Wow, it's impressive. So as Ed noted, I work for HCI. I'm the Vice President of Product Delivery. I have a very diverse leadership background. I've been in executive leadership roles in the automotive industry, the consulting industry, and healthcare. I have worked for three of the largest healthcare organizations in the United States, that being Providence Health and Services, which was a great place to work, great atmosphere, really enjoyed my time there. Dignity Health, where I was the chief of staff of the IT department. We have wonderful leadership there, from Lloyd Dean down to people like Deanna Wise, Laura Young, really great group. And I was also the vice president of technology and the CIO at Prime Healthcare, Prime being a very large organization, 45 hospitals, about 175 specialty clinics. And the fun part about that was it was located in 14 states, which kept you traveling a little bit. And it was both for-profit and non-for-profit. So you had fun with your budgeting there, where you always had to keep things lined up. A few more things. In addition to my work at HCI, I'm also Cornell University's vertical lead of leadership, which is kind of an odd title. But it does allow me to keep learning and do something else. I get to teach some of what I would consider the finest master level students in the world in the disciplines of psychology of leadership, decision making, strategies and negotiations. Also with my work through Cornell over the years, I get to work with eCornell, which has wonderful certificate programs. And I've got to work with some very large organizations with their senior leadership and also with their emerging leaders, which is always fun. A lot of motivation being talked at those meetings. So worked with IBM, Core, which is a huge hospitality organization, Sylvania out of Germany, JP Morgan, and Marriott, and even did a little work with Amazon, which was very enlightening over the last couple of years. I'm on the Forbes Technology Council. I'm the chair of the Kansas State Psychology Alumni Advisory Council. I'm also on the executive leadership team for the American Heart Association, the LA branch that is, and I'm on the Los Angeles World Affairs Council. I also do a little writing for Forbes. Not great books like you, Ed, but I'm working up to that, and I've been in there a few times, been quoted a few times. So that's nice. I've also been on the consumer advisory boards for AT&T, Verizon, Manifest, and I even served on the board of governors for the Federation of American Hospitals. I've been fortunate enough to win a couple of awards over the last couple of years. You always wonder if you deserve them or not, but I'm not going to give them back. I was the recipient of the 2020 Constellation Business Translation Award. I also was Becker's Hospital 100 CIOs to Know in 2019, and I was a finalist for the Millennium Alliance 2019 Healthcare Innovator of the Year. I've been in a few magazines, which is always fun to see your name pop up. American Health Leader. I've been in Gigabyte, Business Chief. I was a feature in the spring issue of Global Healthcare, which was fun to see. I've also done a couple podcasts for Becker's, one for healthcare leadership. And another one that I was asked to do, which I really enjoyed, was a nice group format, which is actually C-suite reports that Becker does, which talks about leadership. So I try to keep myself busy. Beyond that, a few personal things. I think everybody always wants to know the personal things. I live in Los Angeles currently, living here for a long time. I'm married, no kids. And so I haven't had to worry about a lot of the things we've had in the meetings with people talking about their kids right now experiencing. Some of the hobbies I enjoy will probably surprise people. For a person with a technology background over all these years, I pretty much enjoy reading history. I like to stay fit, although probably like a lot of you, I've put on a couple pounds during the pandemic. I need to get out, do a little more running. And I also collect antiques. I'm really fascinated with anything that keeps time. I have too many clocks around the house. I actually, before this meeting, went around and turned off the chime on them all so you wouldn't have to hear that. And I also collect vintage wristwatches, which has been probably as bad as buying a boat. I don't think they have much return, but I do enjoy them.
Yeah. No, it's good to, as you know, as a leader, to have a full life just beyond work. Very impressive background. That's why we're thrilled that you're part of our organization, but also have so much to impart, and you freely impart that. And I know you're a learner as well, and hence your love for history. So we're gonna jump right into it. So you mentioned Forbes. You know, there's an article that you wrote out in Forbes talking about the psychology of leadership, you know, the 3 categories of motivation theory. And so it's always sort of fun to hear some of this theory and then listen to it and then self-assess and put yourself in each one. But we're, as I said in the very beginning, we're going to be very practical. So why don't we start, Will, describing these 3 different categories, and so people can, you know, figure out, hey, which one am I, or am I, you know, crossbreed? And then we'll talk a little bit about the pros and cons, how it affects teams, and that's the practical part. Like, how does it affect teams? And once you know where you are, you know, do you need to be aware of other things? So, but we'll start simple, just one question at a time. So, how did you come to this, you know, and develop these 3 categories of motivation theory?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've been in management now for over 25 years and have always been very keen and astute on looking at what people are doing. So I love people watching and I love talking with people. I've been teaching at eCornell and Cornell for right around 10 years. In the last 5 years of working with students at Cornell, I've really put a major focus on doing a lot of research and studying on what really motivates people. Obviously, I won't say that these 3 categories are the end all, because there's 47 books a year that come out on the same topic, so nobody's quite mastered it yet. But I find that people do fit into one of these 3 categories. And I should say, because someone's going to say, you know, how's a technology guy? What background would you ever have? Besides the teaching, I do have a degree in psychology, which once again is kind of an odd thing to end up in technology. And I know a few of us have that. So it's kind of odd that continues to happen. But when I looked at these 3 categories, I really observing people. And the 3 categories, I'll just kind of go over at a high level. And I'm not going to give names today because of people, because I'll give more of like a biased, generic people who would normally fit into this. And the reason I'm not going to give names is I have a part 2 coming out, so I can't give away all the secrets right now. But the first category is the person who's the checklist technician. The second is the rewards artist. And the third, which is kind of an ominous sounding title, is the societal. And the reason that I put people in these categories and why people should pay attention here is it's very important to know how you are motivated and which one of these categories you fit in. It provides that self-awareness of yourself. And if you're a manager, maybe self-awareness of yourself and how you manage other people. And also self-awareness is a real building block of emotional intelligence. So I'll kind of walk through these at a high level. And the checklist technician is the one that I find interesting, because when I talk with people, everybody wants to be in this category. Nobody wants to be in the other categories. But I should say we are, as you noted, Ed, we are a little bit of a blend of each one of these, but we predominantly fall in one. And also, I think it should be known as I talk through these, keep in mind that there are successful people in each one of these categories, very successful people from top of organizations, you know, even top of politics and such. So don't view this as, if you're in one of these categories, or you know you are, or if you see other people in this category, it's a bad thing. It's just that self-awareness and how you operate and what makes you tick. So we look at the checklist technician, and these are the people that have this overwhelming sense of pride and accomplishment when they can check an item off a list when they get it done. And Ed, I know you're a little bit that way. I've seen you in action, so I have to laugh a little bit going through this, but these are the people who really thrive on what I'll call task tension. And it makes them have cognitive abilities that really rise up and jump up. They really focus more. They're very motivated. There's a euphoria every time they get these things done. So what I would say with people who find themselves in this category, I would suggest that you work on projects and items in your life that are highly focused things where you have an understanding and a clear direction of, of measurements such as OKRs and the metrics that you clearly can understand. And this will help you stay, really productive and motivated as you move through things. I will say there's kind of a little pro-con of this a little bit. So I would say the pro of these people they're highly great to have on projects. They get things done. They're the type of people who are really, the workers. And I see people that fall in this. It's like great PMs, pilot, a doctor. Military leaders are often like this. If you go back and you read through like Grant or Patton or Eisenhower, they're very much this way. And I also find a lot of CIOs, oddly enough, fall into this categories and CTOs. The con that can be kind of tricky on these type of people would be around the fact that they can get really focused on one item if they don't have that clear direction on what is urgent and what is important. Back again, I'm going to mention Eisenhower twice in one thing, he'd be happy. But if you ever look at Eisenhower's principle of the 4 quadrant, he talks about what's urgent and important. And a lot of times these people will get stuck what is on important and lose the urgency of what needs to be done today. Yeah. So as we move forward, I'll try to go through these quick for some Q&A. The second item is a rewards artist. And this is the one where I find people are embarrassed to be and don't like to be. But these are the people who are really motivated and have this feeling of being, they get motivated when others recognize them and they win awards. In fact, it gets so motivating, sometimes they actually start viewing how others view them by their awards that they have won. And, it's interesting because I frequently get asked about this is, what do you do during the pandemic right now if you're this type of person? You still can find high visibility work. These people are still the same people who will, be able to get their team motivated. And actually, these people are very vital to an organization because they're very motivating to those around them when they win awards. And they often get awards won for other people on their team. And so they're also extremely good at building these productive coalitions that we have to have in an organization that can push an agenda. And once again, I'll just kind of tell you the people that would be in there you'd normally see is like a politician, an actor, many C-suite executives, and a lot of great athletes fall into this category where they really motivate themselves by awards. And I'm just going to quick pro-con on that. A pro of this group, which is really excellent, is that they are motivating to other people and people see what they're doing and they want to be like them. Often these people get emulated and often they have a very great magnetic personality. The con of these people that can really get them in trouble is they're often very big multitaskers, and they can also drive you nuts by sending you texts throughout the day. And this doesn't mean they're bad people. Usually they're great people, can send you texts about their social media and how they're doing on things. And so they have to be careful there. And then the last category is the societal, which is even kind of hard to say. And we all know these people and we can plug these people in the work. And these are the ones who find their primary motivation from the people and the social surroundings of the people they work with. These people's closest associates are almost always work related of some type. And I'm trying to think the best probably way to put it, this person because they're the ones that send you the text on Saturday about something maybe non-work related. They're the ones that text you at 9 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, and at 6 in the morning with something that they saw. And they're also the ones that during this pandemic have safeguarded that we all somehow find a way on Friday night to end up on a virtual happy hour. These people are great in that they're a pick-me-up for the people around them. We need these type of people. And the other thing they do is they really make people feel important. So they're highly motivating. And the other thing is great about these people and why you should have them in your social network for motivation is they're connectors often. And they can connect you with other people that you need to get with. They connect you with the best of the best often. And they have a way also at work at being very good at getting everybody together when things are going wrong and getting things done. You often see people who do this are in sales, such as a realtor. The pro of these people, obviously, they get things done. They can push things through when they're totally blocked or stalled by getting people together and working things out. The bad of these people is often they're moody and can have mood swings that create emotional contagion at work. And when I talk about emotional contagion at work, if they're in a good mood, everybody around them's in a good mood and things get done. When they're in a bad mood, everybody around them picks up on that energy and things can go wrong. So those are really my three categories. I know that's a very high level, but Ed, kind of the funny thing about this, when the article first came out, I had about 2,500 emails and texts combined, and everybody was sending me notes about they could plug people in at work, and we're laughing about it. Actually, like, I know this person, I know 3 of these people, I know that person. And the funny thing was, everybody was texting me about, who am I? So everybody I knew for about a week, I had to explain what category I thought they fell into, and I learned a quick lesson: don't tell them.
Right. No, that's very good, and I'm sure, like most listeners, like you said in the very beginning, I kind of feel like, oh yeah, I definitely represent all 3. But yeah, it's like being right-handed or left-handed. You use both your hands, but there's probably a predominant one. So so with some of this information, again, taking that theory, and it's always good to have general classifications because it can help you in many areas like building a team. So how would you perhaps use this knowledge when you're building a team? Like, would you want all checklist technicians, or how would you go about building a team, being cognizant of what you just shared?
I think that's a great question. And I'm going to talk about the diversity of team, and this really falls into that. You do want a diversity of team, and I think often when we think of diversity of teams, we focus too much just on gender or race. I think we need to look at skill set, and part of this is skill set. When you look at people, the skills that they bring to the table are also diversity. And by bringing different people in, you're going to do well. As I mentioned, if you were running a project, you would want the checklist person on your team. They're the person who will keep everybody task focused and get things done. You're going to need the societal on your team. They're the person who might be able to really warm the group up, get them all working and clicking together as a group. And then obviously, as your rewards are, you need that person that really motivates people to say, look, we could win an award here. Great things could happen. We can take the company to the next level. These are also the type of people that I often find with the rewards artists, where they're very detailed in on mission and values and on where they really see things need to go, because they always see a reward there as they move down the line. So they're all great to have. I will say, when we talk about diversity of group, this is one of the most important topics we can have at any organization, and it can be, and why it's important. It's not only motivating, it's productive to a team. So if you're trying to motivate a team or motivate others and understand some of the things you get from a diverse team would be, and if you just look at innovation itself, teams that are diverse have an innovation of about 20% better revenue. So just through the innovation, and the Boston Consulting Group did a great study a couple years ago that many people are familiar with. And they looked at about 1,700 companies through, I think it was 8 or 10 countries. And it was fascinating. It didn't matter what country you're in. If you could get a diverse team together, 20% increase in just the revenues from that. The other thing we find when we get these groups like this, we have the 3 categories of people in, you're also going to find something else. You're going to get better problem solving. Harvard studies have shown over and over a diverse group will come to decisions quicker. And a study by Cloverpop, I believe it was Cloverpop. I had to think there for a second. They did a study a couple years ago, which was absolutely fascinating. It was almost 85 to 90% of people who made decisions, when they looked later on, how did that decision turn out? If the group was diverse, they had better outcomes. And that is hard to believe. And then I would say the other thing is that we really, by getting people in these groups and really focusing, you get that higher engagement. And that is a very important thing. When you get the 3 groups together, the engagement goes up. And as we all know, employee engagement is really what we're looking for. And one of the things we talk about, motivation and engagement and even satisfaction, I think there's a miss sometimes between engagement and satisfaction. You can be satisfied with where you work. You can be satisfied with your job, but you may not be productive. And we want people who are engaged, who want to do things, and looking at things from an organizational standpoint. If you are selling a product or service, you want people who are buying your product to be engaged and loyal, not just satisfied. I could be satisfied in the product I own. I could be satisfied with the car I own. That doesn't mean I'm going to, when the lease is up or the car gets old or the product needs replaced, that I'm going to keep that product. It might mean that I'm going to look elsewhere. So you need people who are loyal and engaged, not just satisfied.
Yeah, that's a good point. So we are down to 10 minutes. Don't forget, if you want to ask specific questions of Will, you can tell a very broad and deep background. Please interact with us. We will definitely take your questions. We do have a few more questions. Here's where we're headed in the last 10 minutes. I'm going to ask one more question around the 3 personas, and then we're going to do kind of a rapid fire. Will, we're going to do a rapid fire on career, because you get a lot of questions when you talk about this sort of thing on my career, like, how do I make it to CIO, director, all that kind of stuff? I'll tee you up and it'll be rapid fire. So the last question sort of on the 3 personas or categories of motivation theory is really about, okay, so you heard sort of the pros and cons, and so many people will be thinking, okay, I'm like 50% here, 30, 20%. What about those who are listening that are like, dang, and there's a few of us out there that might be like 90% one and 5%, and obviously you want to be more balanced. So how do I learn another, like if I'm purely checklist, how do I learn rewards? If I'm purely societal, how do I learn checklist?
And I'm going to kind of approach this a little different. I think that's a brilliant question, actually. What I always tell people is work on your strengths first. And if you're the third baseman for the New York Yankees and, you've won 3 batting titles in a row, maybe you don't stop taking batting practice to, take an extra 300 ground balls a day because you're an average fielder. Work at your strengths first and don't lose it, but have the emotional intelligence and the self-awareness to know the situation that you're in. You need to understand there's going to be times when you need to be social and you need to talk with people. That is good for you, the people around you, and it's also very motivating for everybody involved, including yourself. And the same thing with rewards. I actually believe that everybody should take a little time away and reflect, and maybe, what do you have to be thankful for, if nothing else, to motivate yourself and those rewards. But one thing with the rewards people too, I should say, be very cautious if you're a rewards person, because rewards are a very strange thing. You need a little more each time. So if you win, a prize one time, the next time that prize has to be a little bigger. And at some point, it gets hard to jump to those next level, or maybe impossible. And one of the things that I continually hear when I talk and mentor CEOs around the country, and I've been very fortunate through Cornell to have make some contacts with some very influential people that I wish I could be more like. It's incredible when you hear some of these people talk, but they a lot of times are rewards artists, and they'll tell me, I don't feel great anymore about where I'm at. And you're thinking about someone who's a CEO of a Fortune 100 company, and they've kind of lost the zest a little bit. There's not much more for them to do or win. So be careful with that. Understand, put parameters around everything.
Yep, awesome. So we're going to do rapid fire. We're going to ask questions and answer them in 60 seconds or less. So how do I move up? So maybe I'm a manager to director, CIO. What are 1 or 2 golden nuggets? How do I move up?
First thing you want to do, coach or a mentor. And there's 2 different things, coach and a mentor. I'm going to talk fast here because I know these are 60 seconds less. A coach and a mentor are different. A coach is going to tell you things like your individual needs and accomplishments. You can go over those type of things. They also provide close observation for you, and they should provide some non-judgmental feedback. Great item to have. Greatest athletes in the world have coaches. Don't be embarrassed to have them. When you first start out in management, people are fine with it. I see when people get to director and above, a lot of times they don't want to have a coach or a mentor. They feel embarrassed by it. Don't. I'm telling you now, the greatest athletes in the world have them. If you think that, Boris Becker or Roger Federer in tennis never had a coach, you're wrong. They have coaches. They have a lot of that. For a mentor, you want to find a real connection there. These people are more of your advisor or a counselor or a guide who provide a different level of, of involvement with you. The other thing I would highly suggest, if you're trying to move up the ladder to become a CIO, one, you probably have the technical skills already in place. If you're working in technology, it's the soft skills, it's the understanding of history, and the understanding of finance. And I'll say the final thing that I think kills most CIOs that I have worked with, they don't always have a great understanding of healthcare as an industry. Spend some time reading about healthcare as an industry and learn it.
Yeah, so coaches and mentor, having one is a strength.
Yes.
And if you don't have one, I'm really sad for you.
Yeah.
It's a key to, it's one of the keys to success, which is the next rapid fire question is, why do some people excel and others don't? I know it's very general, but we can give 2 or 3 specific things that would be helpful for some of our listeners.
I'm just going to hit right at the first thing, why some people succeed and others don't. I'll tell you right now what it is. That some people have a plan and some don't. And that's the bottom line. I don't care who I talk with. When I talk with the most successful people, even at a young age, and I'm not saying that if you didn't have a plan at a young age, you can't make it. It will help though. The biggest difference I see in students too, who are really great and get into better universities, they have a plan in place. You need to know where you're going to go and you need to have a plan. I will say that plan needs to have some built-in flexibility. The world changes fast, so you need to be able to bounce around and do different things. But successful people I see do things that other people don't do. And the first is they're always persistent. They don't give up. You know, Henry Ford 3 times failed at getting a car, automobile company going. I mean, you got to be persistent. Second thing is you got to find that focus, as I just mentioned. Know where you're going, have a plan, work that plan. And then this is a key, and Ed, I know you've talked about this before. Surround yourself with good people. And if you have bad people around you who are unmotivating, who don't support you, get them out of your life. And I know that's a rough thing to say, get rid of them. The other thing is ask a lot of questions. And Ed, I notice that you're a question asker. I know I'm a question asker. Ask a lot of questions. Don't be embarrassed. People don't expect you to know everything. And by asking those questions, you get things done. The other thing I'd say is be an active listener. And I need to work more at this. I think we all do. Ask yourself next time you're having a conversation with somebody, are you listening to what they say, or are you worried about what you're going to say next? If you're worried about what you're going to say next, you're probably not comprehending what they're telling you and you're missing out. And the last thing is, and this is something that that Ed and I know we've talked about a great deal, and that is, I would sit down for anybody and I'd suggest you write a personal mission, vision, and value statement. By doing that, it will help you round where you want to go. Know your vision. Where do you see yourself in the future? What do you want to be when you grow up? Know your mission statement. What do you stand for? Why do you exist? And your values. If you can write down your values and live those values, you're going to be much more successful in life than someone who is just kind of floating through, hoping things go well.
Yeah, Will, really powerful things. So I'm going to sum up some of the key things because I think they're really practical. We could spend a whole webinar session on each of those things. And, you know, I just challenge our listeners because I have to challenge myself because I'll listen to someone talk about these various things. I'll be like, yeah, I do that, yeah, whatever. But then I always challenge myself, like go a level deeper. Do I really do that? When's the last time? Okay, I have a personal mission statement. What is it? Where is it written down? So I challenge every one of our colleagues out there to really try to take some of these things that Will has shared to the next level and challenge yourself. So, you know, in summary, have a mentor, have a coach. Often mentors are typically free, so it doesn't cost anything, and you will both benefit. Have a plan, have an area of focus, have it written down, have a diversity of skills of motivate. We talk about the motivation theories, you know, try to have some strengths in each one, although you want to focus on your primary strength. Really that persistence that you talked about, being inquisitive, being a good listener. And then finally, not that this is the end all, but it's so important, it's the team. It doesn't matter how good you are as an individual player, if you don't have a good team, and it's vice versa. So for me, I benefited the other way. I'm just an average player, but I've been on above average teams, which means you win the Super Bowl or the World Series or the Stanley Cup. So that's really the key. So this was so rich, Will. I knew it would be. We could go on for hours. Unfortunately, no one has all that time, but this was a really, really good information. So thank you very much. I just want to thank all of you for joining us today, and I hope it was valuable. If you have ideas for additional webinar topics that you'd like to see or guests, please let me know. We do have upcoming webinars. We do a couple a month. The next one on race relations, this has been a super popular series, really important. We're going to have Dr. Fatui. He's out of Houston, UT. He's a CMIO, and he's going to give us the perspective of a Black man, physician in healthcare technology. I've known him for a long time. I think you'll love it. We're going to go to the Middle East for a while this fall and learn from best practices in the Middle East, and we're also going to go to Europe this fall. So even though we can't travel, we'll travel virtually and learn a lot. And then again, we're going to be wrapping up race relations towards the end of the year. We're going to hear from the vendor side, vendor executive, and then we'll wrap up the series with a little surprise towards October, November. So again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Will. I appreciate all of you joining us today. Thank you so much.